Hello my beautiful people, welcome to the next in the series of the personal year numbers with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button. If you are already a continued subby, you know I love you for it. With that said, let's get straight into it. So your personal year number 8. Whatever year it is, if this is once you've done the calculation video, there's a video on the channel that will tell you how to calculate your personal number, just in case you're not sure. But with that said, let's go straight into it. So the tagline for the personal year 8 is I accumulate. And if you've seen any of the others of this series, I've given each number, certainly 1 to 9, each number I've given an aspect of the divine or an aspect of divinity. And for this one, I believe it's divine fortune. So why do I say that? Because this is a very karmic year. In many ways, and it is a year where you will reap all of the rewards or the challenges that you have sown in previous, in the previous cycles. So when I say divine fortune, this is according to, sort of universal law, if you like. So what is this year about? Material acquisition, structure, organization, accumulation of resources, results of efforts and actions. So when we say accumulation of resources, everyone knows the person, 8's all about money and business and all of that. And it is, it's very, very much to do with the material world, the material resources and things that we need in order to live our lives, but also the things that we acquire in response to or reward for, the actions and the efforts that we've already put out into the world. So as with all of the other numbers, I've separated some of the attributes or experiences into blessings and lessons. Your blessings are things that are going to be, that will come easy or that will be sort of innate or instilled in you this year. The lessons will be the challenges or where this energy can kind of take you if you're unconscious of how to use it. So for the blessings, this is a very busy year. Your 8 year, you will be extremely busy. You'll be, and sometimes, and because the thing is, obviously I work from home, and last year was a personal year 8 for me. Although I didn't necessarily interact out there too much, I was very, very busy, and I had a lot of, I had a lot of speaking engagements, things to do on the public stage, things to do with, assisting people. So yeah, in that respect, actually work in terms of the world, right? So the 7 year was kind of very in here, very in yourself, whereas the 8 year is very expansive and it's very much about out there. It's about involvement, and because busy and involved, it's about involvement with the world at large. So when I say busy for the personal 8 year, I mean you will be busy, and very often it's like as soon as the year starts, you'll just be like bam, bam, bam. You'll be required to be here, there, and everywhere, and it's a really enjoyable year. Certainly if you tap into that energy and when you're emerging out of a 7 year, it can be sort of like, when somebody turns the light on sort of in the middle of the night and you've been sleeping and your eyes are like, ugh! It's kind of like that, because you might kind of not struggle, but you might have a little bit of an adjustment period, because you go from this sort of very insular, contained sort of energy and year, and then suddenly you're thrust out into the world. So you'll be involved with everything, people, places, work, situations, and you will enjoy that. So abundant, this is obviously the money year, right? Now it's not all just about money, it's not all just about finances, but this is the year where you can really make progress. This is the year where you can really make bank when it comes to financial resources. Relationships with financial institutions are favored in an 8 year. If you need a line of credit, all of that sort of stuff is favored here. Now remember, 8 is a karmic number, so whatever you tie yourself to financially, you'll be able to start it, and you'll probably get all of the the things that you want and need in the 8 year. Just be sure if it is things like credit that because it's going to have a longer sort of lasting energy to it. So that's something to really consider, actually. Tough, right? And the other thing with the abundant part as well, It will really show you how to, not just how to get the most out of everything that you have, but it will also make you very appreciative of the things that you acquire, you know, and this is across the board, whether it's money, whether it's items, objects, you know, they tend to gravitate towards you, and you will find naturally a lot of pleasure in them, which is great. You know, at the end of the day, if we incarnate as human, we're here to have the five sense reality experience. We are here to enjoy all of the fruits of the physical, tangible world, and sometimes that is acquisition of items, things, money. As long as that's not your sole purpose, you know, you'll enjoy, you know, life, let alone your 8 year. So tough. This year will make you very tough. And so when I say tough, I don't, you know, resilience is one thing, but the 8 year tends to make you tough. Like, you can just handle it. You know how to get through things. And I think a lot of that is because in your 7 year, because there is so much challenge and it is the number of endurance, it teaches you to be able to just keep going. So when you find yourself in the 8 year, no matter what comes up, you're able to meet it sort of head on. You might even notice that people are like, damn, like, you got tough or hard all of a sudden, what's going on? And it's not so much that you've become hard, it's more just a case of you're ready and more able to deal with pretty much everything and anything. Tenacious. Your 8 year, the energy of that 8 year tends to see you, you know, this whole thing about being tough, it makes you sort of excuse me, it makes you, like, you set goals and you say to yourself, right, I'm going to achieve that. That is the outcome that I'm looking for. And it just kind of sees you really not even putting the blinkers on, but you just kind of go into this single-minded focus where you say, right, I've had these experiences, and if something pops up that you don't like, it will make you tenacious about changing that experience. It makes you sort of very proactive, where you'll just say, look, you know what? That's not good enough. What are we going to do about it? If there's something that you want to pick up, something that you want to do, something that you want to create, maybe you want to start a business, an 8 year is a brilliant year for it, because you have that tenacity, and because you have that sort of toughness, that inner toughness. Even if challenges do come up, you kind of tend to sail through them. Eccentric. The number 8 is very expansive. It is very growthful. It does have sort of a Jupiterian flair and feel to it. And for that reason, it can make you a little bit sort of larger than life. You know, you could, and it might appear that way to everybody. You could just be sort of, you know, you want to eat well, you want to drink well, you want to go here, you want to go there. You know, you'll be very sensual, very tactile. In difference to, say, the 5, like the 5 is all about just give me the experience, whereas the 8 wants the quality. You know, 5 was like, right, let me see what I like to do, what I like to have, what I like to touch, what I like to interact with. Whereas the 8 says, well, I already know that. So now what I do like, I want the best of, I want the quality from it. And, you know, it could have that sort of, yeah, just very eccentric sort of feel to it. Which is great, you know, it's fun. I mean, I'm mad as a bag of frogs, so you know, for me, that's just kind of like, meh. You know, run of the mill every day. Able to manifest, right? And this is across the board, but you will notice that money, finances, all that sort of stuff, it just comes easier than it does normally. You know, or maybe you're better at it, or maybe you're just more aware of your own processes to manifestation, you know, because everybody has a different approach to how they do this. However, some of the baseline stuff, it really is universal. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are certain things that you have to do, or protocols that you have to follow. But the 8 year kind of taps you into it. It's like you find your own rhythm and you're able just to kind of roll with it. And then finally, focus and knowledge applied. So in your 7 year, You will learn a lot of deep secrets about yourself, about the world, about magic, about, you know, reality, about life in general, right? And what tends to happen is you take all of that knowledge and that experience from the 7 year and you apply it to the real world. You apply it to the tangible world. And when you do that, it's kind of like spirit descending into matter and matter ascending to spirit. And then you get this sort of, you know, complete, that's like a really twisted 8. Then you get this kind of complete blending. And when you think as well, if you look at the number 8, you know, it's got there's 2 circles, right? But there's an element of, you know, like the Mobius veil, the Mobius strip. There's an element of not just karma, but eternality to it. There's a sense of, you know, something other coming together, you know, and that's what the 2 halves are about. One represents spirit, one represents matter. And when you can apply that focus and knowledge that you know, and knowledge that you gained from the 7 year, it becomes wisdom and tangible results. Very, very exciting. So for your lessons, the number 8, especially when it comes to business, 8 can be, you know, it can make you really ruthless, you know, and very sort of cutthroat, which, you know, the world of business, like certainly big business or, you know, all the rest of it, it tends to be that way anyway. But you might, if you allow this to kind of go unconscious, you might find yourself behaving or acting in ways where you're like, damn, I need to chill. Like, you know, when you're getting so bad with something that you tell yourself that you need to chill, that's when you know you're kind of like, okay, I think we're going a little bit far with this. So it is really something to consider for your yeah, you know, it's something that definitely comes up a lot, I would say. Sorry about that. So yeah, the next one is materialistic, and I think this one kind of speaks very much for itself. We talk about materialistic because it is the number of materials. It's the number of the material world, and because we are living, you know, it's eccentric. So you could find yourself sort of, you know, really moving towards that. And one of the things that you might notice is that instead of maybe spending time with people or interacting with them because you're so busy, you might try to sort of, you know, throw money at it, throw items at it, throw gifts at it. And obviously we all know that, you know, that while those things are nice and it's nice to be treated and spoiled, it's no substitute for real time, for real connection, for real, you know, person to person, heart to heart sort of feeling, you know. So just consider that over this year. You might have a tendency to do that. Again, these are all things that if they're unconscious within you, you'll start to express. So, you know, maybe not all of them. Hearty. And I put this as a lesson because you might find that you get a little bit sort of, well, the big I am, and yeah, you know, and I guess this feeds into the whole eccentric part, but it's sort of where that kind of goes too far and you just kind of become sort of, you know, overly larger than life and kind of just for the sake of itself. Guilty is an interesting one, and I think this kind of, for me certainly anyway, I feel like it feeds into this whole materialistic thing and the busy part as well. Like if you think of these as sort of a triangle, and so you're really busy, but you know, you want to sort of connect with people as best you possibly can, and then on top of that you're kind of, you know, you feel the guilt. And I think the part of that is because you may very well see things happening in the family, with friends, with, you know, loved ones, and because you're so busy you don't have the time to go in there and help. You know, even if you're the sort of person that usually drops everything, your 8 year kind of says to you, if you're gonna do this, you've got to do it all. You've got to be in it for the long haul. So I'm not really going to accept half-assed. Well, that's the other thing about the 8 year, you know, there's no in between. It's kind of like, it definitely is an all or nothing year for sure. And I think the big part of that is because of the karmic aspect, right? It will give you the results that you want, but you've got to put the work in, you've got to put the effort in. you know, and I guess that's where it differs to Jupiter. No, actually not necessarily, because, you know, if you think about Jupiterian blessings, a lot of people just kind of come at it with their hands wide open. And then when they don't get sort of everything fall out of the sky, they're like, oh, wow, Jupiter's not that lucky because I didn't get anything. It's like, well, what did you bring to the transit? You know, what did you offer to Jupiter in order to fulfill the promise that was there? And it's the same with the 8 year. So, and this whole thing with guilt, you because you're so busy, you might find that you just don't have time to step in where you usually would, or maybe a part of you just doesn't want to because you're so focused on yourself and your own goals. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the guilt that you feel because of it, you might feel that with the materialistic stuff and just, oh, well, you know, I'll throw money at it or buy gifts. So, you know, sorry I couldn't be there for your 65th anniversary, but here's a bottle of Cristal. It's lovely, it's a gorgeous gesture. It's not quite the same as you being present, right? Frivolous. If you got it, flaunt it. You know, you could find this year that because you've got, you know, the extra money, you've got the extra change, or, you know, whatever, you might just be a little bit kind of like, meh, well, you know, it's a bit OTT, or what's the word, maybe it's a bit, but yeah, maybe it's a bit frivolous, maybe it's a bit OTT, you know, maybe a bit eccentric, but so what, you know what, let's have it, you know, I can have it, so why not? So, you know, I mean, it can work both ways. Argumentative. I think this is kind of akin to I mean, I'm naturally argumentative, which is one of the reasons I really tried to curb a lot of my responses to some of the stuff on the channel and, you know, in the comments and stuff, because yeah, I know myself well enough to know that it's sometimes it's better just to say nothing. So yeah, when I say argumentative, the 8 year can really make you that, and it's because you want what you want in the 8 year, and you have the tenacity and all of the other stuff that you need to go after it. You kind of like, this year you're like a dog with a bone. You can lift me up off the floor into the air, but I'm not letting this go until I'm done with it. I'll put it down when I want to, but not before. So, you know, karmic. Now, I should have put this on both, right? Because it's very often, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, well, I know loads of people that have got away with stuff in their 8 years that wasn't necessarily above board when it comes to business and stuff. 2-3 years later, maybe when they hit the personal year 11, maybe the personal year 2, or possibly their personal year 4, that starts to unravel and they pay the price for it. So just consider that everything you do in your 8 year, you really need to keep above board, because it is a karmic number. Think about this year of, you will get what, you know, what was it? Results and efforts of actions, and, you know, actions sown, for sure. There's definitely that element, but don't forget, because it is a long reaching number as well, right? It has that ability to come back with something at a later date. So just consider. And then finally, obsessed. Now, again, this could be on both sides, because it gives you that focus, that determination, that tenacity to go after things, but you could get a little bit obsessed. And, you know, the 7 year was obsessed, like you could go into a conspiracy theory and, you know, end up sitting under the table with a tinfoil hat on, whereas your 8 year could see you becoming, you know, money obsessed, status obsessed. You know, this, you could be really like, wow, you know, what if it's not the best? I'm not interested. Like, you know, all of that sort of stuff. Like, I'm not shopping there. You know, I'm only going to shop at Harrods. Or, do you know what I mean? It can make you really sort of singular minded and focused on those kinds of things. So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're striving to make a quantum leap from where you're at. You know, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, and the year 8 is really a year to do that. It's just doing it in a way that doesn't sort of alienate you or separate you from your roots is going to be important. So what is your 8 year a year for? I've got my trusty notes here. It is a year to emerge from your cave and use all that you've learned. So everything that you learned in your 7 year, This is the year to apply it. And if you can do that, you know, what is knowledge applied? Wisdom. And when you've got wisdom, oh man, you can go really, really far. So think about that this year. Rediscover and use your personal power. I think in your 7 year, you're accumulating that, you know, or certainly getting to grips with it. Whereas in your 8 year, you're like, right, now I've got all of this palpable power inside myself and I know what to do with it, or I certainly know what I want to direct it at. This is the year for you to really tap into your personal power and use it to create the kind of life, materials, resources, accumulation of things that you want. It's the year for all of that. It's a year to transform your life, really to transform your life. And I've got right underneath this, increase your earning power and potential. And I kind of feel like these two are linked, because across the board, everyone that I've seen, including myself, go through a personal year 8. It's funny because although 7 is the year of study and reflection and all the rest of it, I've seen a lot of people, including myself last year, you tend to gain qualifications that are going to move you up a pay bracket in the year 8. So 7, it's kind of like you're getting your bearings of everything and doing the sponge bit, whereas in the 8 year it's like, right, let me consolidate that and turn it into power, and I'll turn those things into money, I'll turn those things into resources that I need. Your pay bracket, your earning potential this year could really skyrocket. It could really go up a notch, especially if you're willing to do the work. Year to get a promotion, and if you don't get a promotion, go after a promotion. And if you can't get that promotion, this is a year where a lot of people will jump ship so that they get the kind of work, job, money, rewards, benefits, all the rest of it that they want, that they seek. A year to overcome problems like a boss. And I mean like a boss, you get me? Like really, this is a year to do that. It really is. I mean, and again, everybody that I've seen come through a personal year 8, they all manage to, you know, even if it's just right sort of like at the end of the year or the last quarter, when they get there, they're like, yeah, do you know what? I feel stronger in myself and more able to go after the things that I truly want, which is great. So be ambitious and reach for big goals. This is a year to think big. This is a year for you to really go after it. You know, if you've got the guts and the daring and the boldness and the braveness to go after what you want, your 8 year really could deliver it to you, or deliver you to it. It just, you know, relies on how much grit you're willing to put in. Aim for the top or some sort of position of power or authority. But you've got to be prepared to do the work, and you need to be able to do the job. Right? Because if you're not, you'll get found out pretty quickly and it will bite you in the butt. So, you know, providing you can do it and you know you can, go for that top spot, go for that authority position, go for, you know, whatever it is that you want to go after. As long as you've got the stuff to back it up, go for it, because you could really find yourself in a great place. Pay attention to creating financial and material security. This will be a year where you start to do that, where you start to really plan for and build for your future, you know, for all the other things. Because don't forget, once you kind of come out of the 9 year cycle, depending on your numbers, you then go back into another cycle, you know, from, let's say, 1. And with that, you know, this is going to really start to look for, like, you, okay, so now that I've created that sort of pocket, that bigger earning bracket and stuff, what does my next 9-10 year cycle look like to me, and what do I want to create in it? Learn to delegate. It's a big one for the personal year 8. If you try to do absolutely everything yourself, you will end up doing nothing. And there were moments last year where I kind of convinced myself, oh, well, yeah, I can do that, and I can do that. And then when it got to certain points, I was like, okay, you know what, Raf, no, you can't do that. And it's better for you to outsource it to somebody else. And that's what I did. And at each point that I did that, not only did it free up time and space for me to put into what was really important to me, me. But actually, to be honest with you, working like a boss, you need to be able to delegate. You need to be able to pass over things that you don't have the skill for. You know, that is just the general truth and fact of it. When you think about these people that are CEOs and bosses of big companies and stuff, there's stuff that they have no idea how to do. That's why they pay somebody else to do it. And you know what? That's the whole point. It's really good practice, especially if you're reaching for some sort of bigger aspiration in life, or to be, you know, like the head of a company, or, you know, anything like that. You need to be able to pass things over to people that are A, more skilled, B, more equipped, and C, more interested, to be quite fucking frank. You know, it's call a spade a spade. Be business minded, to learn about business, to learn about all kinds of aspects and facets of business, how to step forward with those things. Deal with everybody fairly in a year 8. Really important, really important. And the reason I say that is because I kind of see this as, it's like sowing the seed. Do you know what I mean? So when the time comes, people can say, oh, you know what, actually, yeah, I'll remember them. They're actually quite a decent person, you know? And this is one of the things that I said in, I can't remember what sign it was, but I did the Uranus specials 2 years ago now, bloody hell. And in one of those, I said, like, not be careful, be kind to people on your rise to wherever it is that you're going. Let's say your rise to fame, because you never know who you're going to need back down, you know, as you come back down the steps of that ladder. So really be fair with everybody over the course of this year. Be dependable and thorough, and stick by your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Show up. Be that, and just really deliver everything that you promise to deliver, and you'll be doing really well in this year. Be bold, chancy and ballsy. You know, this is another year to be a bit cheeky, to go after something. Maybe some of what you're doing requires a bit of ruthlessness, and providing it's not just you know, stepping on people's faces just to get up the ladder, you know, but having that sort of focused, tenacious sort of ruthlessness that kind of gets you through to what you want. That's a good way to use it, rather than just, you know, like I said, going mad and being, I'm gonna murder you to get to the top. If you want the big rewards, you've got to go big. That is the 8 year in a nutshell. Although seeking accumulation, remember quality is always going to trump quantity. And this is, you know, this kind of feeds back into what I was saying earlier. You know, rather than just having everything for the sake of it, this year you'll start to specialize, or you will want the quality. So it's like, you know, in the 5 year, you'll be like, I like wine, so I'm going to drink all the different wines there are. Whereas in the 8 year, you'll say, I like wine, but I want, you know, this kind of wine that's this kind of age. Or I'm just giving an example, but you kind of get my point. So your key piece of advice for this number, 8 is a karmic number. What you will sow is exactly what's going to be returned. And really do learn to delegate, learn to pass over or hand over the things that you know you can't do, don't want to do, or are no good at, by incorporating and utilizing other people and their skill sets. It will free up a lot of your own. This is a really good year to learn how to manage not only your own time and resources, but also your connections and relationships with other people on a professional level. This is a year to really get good at and clear with those things. So that is your 8 year in a nutshell. You know, let me know in the comments how it shapes up for you. What do you love? What do you loathe? What's your experience of the personal year 8? And also, whether you're watching this today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, 50 years from now, you know, I wish you all of the best, and I hope you have an amazing 8 year and that you make it your absolute best yet. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon.